Val, is this like the first show you remember seeing that's like specifically about college romance? You said there was another show that you've seen, what's it called?
Sex Lives of College Girls. It's a
Okay.
great show, but it's not always about romance. It's really about sex. Um,
Okay.
so this was definitely more in the romance category.
Yeah. And I mean, as a couple of Gen X women who've lived through several generations of pop culture representations of romance, I was kind of blown away. I mean, and I wasn't expecting to be blown away. I was expecting to feel like, oh, that's cute. And yet it did something much deeper.
I agree. When I first started watching it, I have to say the first episode that sets up the story, it was a little cheesy, a little corny. And I think that has to do with setting up the trope, the romance setting. But, so I thought this will be cute. This will be a way to pass time.
Hmm.
But then pretty quickly, they started approaching a lot of the topics in a way that I thought was really well done, that was really trauma informed, and the hot jocks were woke as fuck, and that was hot.
Right.
Yeah.
The hot jocks were woke as fuck, which was stunning. I don't think I've seen it represented quite that way. I want to get back to this trope that's sort of as old as time, where there's going to be a fake relationship, a
Hmm.
fake marriage, a
Right.
fake coupling of some type. And like we've seen that. Why is that so useful in this scenario? The fake, like, one of the things I kept seeing was this dichotomy of a performance versus a private life, which, sorry, Zoom, stop giving me thumbs up. Which I feel like, of course, has always been there in stories and literature. We're always performing for other humans,
Mhm.
but there's like this very specific trope of a performance that gets set up
Yeah.
and in a deal.
Yeah, I think the fake relationship trope um, really helped grow the romance in a short amount of time for a couple of reasons. One was that it created kind of a bubble for Hannah and Garrett to be in where they were both in on something. So there was a little bit of intimacy already built there, but they knew it was fake. They weren't trying to necessarily get each other to like each other, get into each other's pants. So they were able to really just be themselves and form a friendship. A friendship developed. And that puts you in a place where you're letting your vulnerability be exposed and feeling safe about it, um, in a way where if it's just an early relationship, maybe there's more anxiety and less safety.
You're right. It's like there's a performance outside for the world, the performance.
Mhm.
Well, Garrett isn't really concerned about the performance of the world. She's, it's set up. The setup is more that Hannah has to be in performance for the
Mhm.
world and Justin. Is that his name? Justin Cole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Garrett keeps
Um,
calling him Jacob, so you might be
Jacob.
confused.
Jacob, Joseph, Joe. I loved that. I thought that was awesome.
Me
By the
too.
way,
Yeah.
I checked out several younger person reviews of this book, including people who, sorry, of this show, including devotees of the book. And I don't know
Hmm.
if you know this or not, but devotees of the book are extremely pleased by this rendition. So pleased that most of them have many of them, I should say, I don't know the stats. Many of them have said, wow, the book is kind of crap compared to this, which
Yeah.
interesting side quest, but like that is not something you generally hear people say who love a book,
Yeah, I
right?
agree with that. I read similar things, having not read the book. What people
Me neither.
online were saying as book readers was that they were pleasantly surprised at the hockey players, the hot jocks, being more informed about being respectful of women, about concepts of trust and consent. And they had their own relationships and bonds as teammates, but in the house they were living, there was very much a family vibe. And when they started dating or screwing around with certain girls, like Hannah and her friend Allie, those people were kind of brought into that found family as well. And that's another thing that just creates trust and safety. And for the watcher, like some serious warm fuzzies. We all want to be in our favorite found family.
Oh my God. 100%. I was thinking about that. That's got to be like, and I've heard many people say, commenters say, um, internet folks say, like, they want to be in that world as much as they can. They have rewatched this show over and over, and maybe now are planning on reading the books because they want to be in that family, which I think is very interesting, and makes sense. Like, this is an experience, and Hannah is sort of brought from a very private setting with, I think, just her and Allie. And I guess she's got a couple of their friends and she's in the band. Like, she doesn't seem to have really strong social like she's got two friends as far as I can tell prior to being brought into this family.
Mhm.
You think, is that correct? Like,
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, I loved Hannah and Allie's friendship. There was a real like level of platonic intimacy and trust and security, but at the same time, Hannah was not honest with Allie about her history of sexual assault, whereas eventually she was trusting enough of Garrett to let him know about that. Um, so she had this little small group, maybe just one or two people, maybe
mhm.
just one really, and was able to join this larger group.
Yeah, she's got just one plus the obligatory black gay friend. Um, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
speaking of tropes, he needed to be there, so he indeed was, right? But
yes.
you're absolutely right. It's like she doesn't tell Allie, her friend, or at least that's what she says to Garrett, that she hasn't told anyone. And she tells him for reasons of utility.
She does initially, but
Mhm.
I don't think she would have asked him to help her orgasm if she didn't already have that friendship and the buildup of trust that they created through their like fake relationship bubble.
I would argue that she's more equal with Garrett than she is with Allie in the friendship.
Yeah.
Because she and Garrett, like you said, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm listening to you. I just
Mm.
would say that maybe she just wasn't ready to tell Allie, but she did tell Allie everything that happened. She just said it was to a friend of hers. And in the end, Allie admits she knew it was Hannah. She was
Yeah.
just giving her space.
Yeah, she
So
was
I
giving
thought
her
that was really
space.
well done.
Oh, I totally agree. I think like in the Allie Hannah relationship, at least in the area of love and romance and being comfortable in one's body, and like at least at first, it appears Hannah and Allie are not quite equal in this respect. She says to Allie, not everyone can find a husband on day 2 of college. We see that she goes to Allie for outfits and shirts that are sexy or revealing. They're not in her wardrobe. She is unbelievably awkward and anxious talking to Justin. Like watching that part was so difficult for me. I'm like, what has happened to this person? It didn't seem realistic to me that I don't know what year of college they're in. So I'm going to say what, 19, second
Yeah.
year, maybe. I, I mean, it was like she had never spoken to a boy before. So that's when I'm saying they're not equal. She and Allie are not equal in this respect. I'm not saying they're not good friends. I'm not saying their friendship isn't
Gotcha.
genuine. None of that. I'm saying in this respect. And I think we can all relate to that. We've all had friends who were like super duper successful in some area of life that maybe we are not as much. But I would just like to go on ahead and state for the record that like Val and I were both equally smart, equally successful with men, like just equally great. And everyone in college thought we were equally awesome. So this is not us I'm speaking of, but like these people. Like, I mean,
Well,
what did you think about that?
I mean, to be honest, Hannah's awkwardness was something I kind of identified because um, I think that I've experienced that myself. I just had a really good mask for it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of people find Hannah really annoying. I've read a lot of those comments, and
Oh,
it just
really?
makes me wonder, like, I mean, are you seeing a little of yourself in her and that's annoying you? Maybe she's just annoying. That's valid as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, I hear you. I didn't find her annoying. I found her very sympathetic. Again, I was
Yeah.
putting myself in the place of a young teenage girl because I don't know exactly how old whatever. And, I'm seeing someone who's a bit more introverted, who's not the most socially outgoing gift. So I'm evaluating her that way, right?
Hmm.
Not as the compulsive extrovert that I was in college whatsoever, right? Just like, okay, what was that like? So I'm sort of evaluating her from the perspective of maybe somebody I was at a much younger age, like 13, 14, maybe.
Hmm.
Anyway, it doesn't matter, but I don't find her annoying. She's actually very fluid and very sharp and very on it. Like when she's talking to people that she knows, like and then it's like she got dropped on her head when she's speaking to him. And I'm not talking about like bringing up weird shit like the watermelon from Dirty Dancing. Oh, what'd you think about the Dirty Dancing, the retroness of this? Let's talk about that.
Well, I loved the retroness of it, the Dirty Dancing references, the music.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they explained the music because they said that Garrett's mom introduced him to those songs. They didn't really explain, I don't recall why Hannah loved Dirty Dancing, but I think actually you just explained it to me, that awkwardness of baby saying I carried a watermelon. Hannah later uses that quote. She identifies like I'm being so awkward. So, I don't know when Hannah first saw that movie, likely when she was younger, maybe with their parents, but she identified with that awkwardness because she carries it.
Yeah, I mean, and shout out to, I'm pretty sure she says at one point her mother exposed her to that movie. I think Hannah
Okay.
says. And we later find out that Hannah's mom is like a goddess of self help, not self help, a goddess of like perfection as far as her response to what happened to Hannah and like, oh my God. As you know, I have mommy issues, and when we got to the part about Hannah's mom, I was just like, "Wow!" Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine having a mom like that because she just was so awesome. So I think that's where Hannah got that. And then I also find it funny that for those of us who are alive in the 80s and 90s, that they all refer to Cherry Pie and Warrant as classic rock, which I just think is funny because, like, we would not have called it that. Like, and granted, we were in it, but I just
No.
mean there's such a distinction between, I don't know, Led Zeppelin classic rock versus like this tiny
Yeah.
little
For us,
hair,
classic rock was, yeah, not hair band. It was Led
not,
Zeppelin, it was Pink Floyd, you know,
yeah,
maybe the Stones, the Doors.
correct.
Um,
Creedence Clearwater Revival, may they rot in hell. I hate that band so much. In fact, the distinction between classic rock and hair metal or glam metal caused a massive rift our senior year in college. I don't know if you're, I'm going to start
oh,
telling the
right.
story and you're going to remember. So, Val and I loved like, doing stupid shit. Like one of our deepest bonds is stupid shit. And also one of our deepest bonds is pop culture, which is why we're talking about this. Like, absolutely. And, we got like a Tiger Beat, or I don't remember what the magazine was called, but some people will remember there were these magazines that were like meant for very young, like teenagers, tweens, about like usually it was like for girls about boys, right? And so we do you remember what the magazine
Yes.
was called? Do you know what I'm do you remember? Do you not?
Yeah, I think it was Tiger Beat.
Okay. So we go and get like I might have even have bought two or three of these Tiger Beat magazines that have like all these posters and pullouts of like the hair metal bands like Warrant. Um I can't even remember. Can you remember any of the rest of them? I can't. Um
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like Skid Row, Sebastian Bach, um,
there
Guns
we
N'
go.
Roses, Axl Rose. Yeah.
Axl Rose and Guns N'
But
Roses
they
were even
also had, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Okay. No, I was going to say, I think Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses was a little bit more mainstream, respectable to the classic rock crowd. But the point is, we pulled out all these posters and put them all up over the entire downstairs of our shared college house that we shared with six other girls slash women because we thought it was hilarious. Most of these
Mm,
pictures. And it was funny. We thought it was funny as F. So then we just put them all up, probably while under the influence of something. And then one of our roommates, who was very committed to classic rock, the Dead, I believe, and maybe early Fish. I can't remember. I think, but anyway, she was a person who never, she lived at her house, but she never stayed there because she always stayed with her boyfriend. And she was quite outraged that we put up these, because she thought people would think when they came in that our house was seriously devoted. I mean, to these bands. Is this how am I remembering it wrong?
no, you are remembering it correctly. Um, but I mean, we were kind of all over the place with, how we took the love of pop culture and just like kind of tongue in cheek went along with it. And this was one of the examples.
Yeah. And in a sort of way, we enjoyed it in kind of a similar way to the way Garrett is enjoying Warrant. Like, I don't get the feeling, Cherry
Right.
Pie, that song. Like, I don't get the feeling that Garrett sits around listening to Cherry Pie 24/7 and he's just like, my God, it's so good. Right? And then, but it's just funny because they refer to it, they're kids and they refer to it as classic rock. And those of us of that era would be like, it's hair metal. It's not classic. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah. I
I
mean,
just thought that was
I
funny.
think the use of that song was really genius because Garrett was showing what music he liked. It was a little more classic rock, some older R&B as well. So
Yep.
Cherry Pie wasn't necessarily what we had heard him sneakily listening to when he was alone or just with him and Hannah. But that song was on his um, speaker when he was, performing cunnilingus on one of the puck bunnies.
Puck
So
bunnies.
I thought it
Say
was
that five
pretty
times
genius.
fast. Puck bunny, puck bunny,
Can
puck
you say,
bunny. Yeah.
I don't think I can.
Yeah. You're right. That song was on, and I don't know if we're meant to think he is listening to it or if that's like the narrator's comment on what's happening, right? But
Oh, he was because Hannah later performs it to kind of tease him.
yeah, okay. So now that is like I want to get to that. Like that's perfect. So I remember the original Warrant video. I bet you do too. Do you remember it?
Oh, I do too. Oh,
Yeah.
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 Beautiful, buxom blonde dancing around in a small apron and holding a pie.
Yeah, and then like there's multiple images of the pie like falling in the lap so we can understand if we're not clear that the pie references her nether regions, her private parts, right?
You
Like
know, Yeah, I feel like the metaphor was already there, but the video did make sure that we knew.
right, right. Like I hadn't just casually growing up in Dayton, Ohio, I had never heard people be like, then I ate that cherry pie, right? Like that I needed that. I needed the explainer video. So so he's listening to it, as you say. We get a full performance. Another girl, I believe this girl, by the way, the girl that he's going to town on the first performance of Cherry Pie. I believe we actually do. She is one of the ladies who felt comfortable showing her chest. So there is because I kept
Mhm.
noticing this, like who's showing what, and from the perspective of their actors, they can choose to show whatever they want, right? Like or not, as the case may be.
Mhm.
But she's in a thong and there's a lot more explicit body imagery of her while he's doing this on Garrett's going to town in the cherry pie situation. And then one of the things this show does so well is parallels. So we see back to back images of Garrett and his his non girlfriend. Um, I think her name Kendall. I can't remember. Anyway, we see them
Yes.
having a good old time. Hannah is in a private space trying to write her ultimate pop song, which is sad and hilarious. And so she's home on whatever this Friday night is, walking around trying to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, the culmination of this back and forth scene, we see Cherry Pie temporary hookup, Garrett's lady of choice for the evening. We see her throw back her head in orgasm. Cherry Pie's success here. At the same time, we cut immediately to Hannah throwing back her head in frustration. Because strangely, as a classical music composer, score composer, she is unable, Val. I don't know if you're going to be able to handle this. She is unable to write a great pop song at home by herself on a Friday night.
Yeah. Well, she's unable to write the lyrics. I feel like she wrote a couple really great melodies.
She wrote some bars, yeah, but yeah, I loved that juxtaposition there. I know we've leaped on from Cherry Pie, but I was like props. Um, I took a couple of film classes in college and grad school, and one of the things like I always try to do now is like really pay a lot of attention to framing, visual framing.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was really good. But I want to go back to this cherry pie because there's this transformation. You talked about it right in the beginning. You were talking about these old time tropes from the
Hmm.
80s, the 90s, the 2000s, like a cherry pie and the Warrant video, right? We've got this insanely beautiful, buxom blonde woman. And like, just in case you don't get it, we're throwing the pie in her lap and it's like splooshing out, just like, let's be real. And again, I needed the explainer video. I was not clear. So I think you brought up like so much of this is a reworking of these tropes that we've seen for a while. And I know this is a vast topic, but please go off, Queen, because I'd like to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, even Hannah goes on to sing Cherry Pie at karaoke. I mean, that's taking it on its head. Then she's the one singing the song, and later that night is asking Garrett to have sex with her. And she was drunk. He says no. Another example of the hot jock being really respectful and understanding consent. But the next morning, she kind of explains really probably what she thinks she was going for was that she wants Garrett's help having an orgasm because she has a block to that.
Yeah.
Um,
You,
so I guess, she's taking control of her own cherry pie.
and let's talk about like how she is and the two of them
She's taking
facilitate.
control of her own cherry pie.
Yeah. I mean, perfectly said. And you said before that this fake relationship gives them this setup where they can really boost each other and really trust each other because they're not worried about like performing for each other. There's less performance there because they're both in
Hmm.
on the deal, right? So keep in mind, she sings Cherry Pie at the karaoke. So we've got Warrant's old song, we've got karaoke, we've got this ancient shit happening. The drums that have been beat thus many times. But now we've got a new element here, which is she's sober because of what we know. We don't know yet what happened, but we know something bad happened while she was drinking. And Garrett
Hmm.
knows because Logan clued him or maybe he hasn't yet.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, no,
No, but
earlier.
Logan did. Yeah.
Yeah, Logan clued him in during the party at Dean, and I don't know if that's Dean's brother. I don't really understand the who the other person is that has the house with Dean in wherever the hell it is, Martha's Vineyard, Cape Cod. I'm not clear. Anyway, that's where Logan is like, oh, you need to give her like a can, like a drink with a can. Okay, so Garrett is clued in by Logan about this whole, and then he dares at karaoke because she says she's not going to sing. She tells the younger sibling of Logan, Jules, don't sign me up. By the way, I love that Jules is at the heart of all social dynamics of this. She is like the absolute controller of what's going on. And as a person somewhat like that myself, hats off to Jules. So Jules comes and asks her, do you want to sing? She doesn't want to sing. She's sober. Sober karaoke is no fun. Garrett now, because he's been clued in by Logan, he's empowered to say, I will guard your drink with my life. Do you trust me? Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. So then we have the drink montage. And of course, I was thinking, who's paying for all these drinks on this college campus? But then I was like, oh, probably Garrett, I guess. Anyway, um, it's because she's drunk 4 giant pina coladas that all of a sudden
Mhm.
we've seen this very private Hannah who is awkward in almost every scenario that does not involve her two close friends and her music professor. And I mean, what did you think of that transformation there to the cherry pie situation?
Well, you know, having that social lubricant, I think, has its moments where it can release some inhibitions. I mean, I thought we were really seeing a playful Hannah and someone that was more akin to like who she really was without all the awkwardness and the walls that she's put up because of her past and her past trauma. So I thought it was actually really fun. Um, but I like how she was able to get there because Garrett said he would take care of her safety with his
That's right.
life. Um, and I mean, yeah, so there was something about their fake relationship, their building safety, trust, and friendship that he
Yeah.
offered that, and she believed him. So, yeah, I thought it was a sweet moment and actually a really interesting way to show this wasted, but still having.
You thought it was kind of a
I
cool
thought
way.
that's the Yeah, I liked the scene of Hannah performing karaoke because I think with her inhibitions lowered from the alcohol, we saw a playful kind of flirty side of her that I think is her real self when she doesn't have all the walls put up, that she's put up understandably because she's had past trauma. But one thing that I thought it was done in a way that I really liked was the lead actress got wasted, um, but it was in a container of safety because
Yes.
Garrett was looking out for her and she trusted him enough to allow him that responsibility. He
And
offered, she accepted.
he offered, she accepted. He also took on responsibility for her drunk friend, who I
Hmm.
thought was incredibly annoyingly portrayed during this part. I wanted to hit her in the head with a baseball bat. Like, could you be more self absorbed? Now, this is my thing, but like, she's a theater major. She's the friend, Allie.
Yeah.
Okay, so number
So she
one,
could be more self-absorbed.
yeah, right. Exactly. She probably could. But I mean, just the contrast between her performance that we see to open the karaoke scene, Allie's performance, where she's rolling around the floor. She has a terrible voice. And I'm not this, none of this is the actress's fault. I'm sure they told her to sing it that way. Right. So we've
Hmm.
seen Allie sort of outperforming Hannah in the public square. And now there's this reverse. And to me, a lot of this show is about public performance versus private reality. So Allie's going to roll
Hmm.
around on the floor. Now, Graham has taken responsibility. Sorry, Garrett has taken responsibility for her as well. He's like, because Hannah says, I can't get wasted because I have to look after Allie. Like she is a
Right.
no filter drunk, which we are seeing, right? And then we
Hmm.
see Allie in the bathroom stall talking about her relationship to absolutely, as far as we can tell, nobody who cares for apparently like, and this is all played for comedic effect. Like, obviously, we're not supposed to, but I just thought this part was weird. I didn't like it. I'm like, it seemed fake to me. It felt like very much like, oh, here's the theater friend, and look how wacky theater, like other moments, and we can talk about this another time, but like other moments of Allie felt very real to me. But this whole thing, I was just like, I mean, let's go ahead. I mean, you and I have been in a bathroom as drunk girls and young women with a lot of other drunk girls and young women, including many people
Mhm.
in the theater department where we went to school.
Yes.
Have you ever seen
Yeah.
anything like that? I mean, I understand it's a TV show, but I just thought this was a bit bleh for me. For me.
Yeah. Her like going on and on and on about her relationship. I mean, it was, I think, a scene to give Allie time for her to let the audience know how hard it was for her to let go of this relationship that was obviously not working, obviously what she didn't want. It was her first love. Her mother told her to never give up on love, but they're not sexually compatible anymore. They're not lifetime compatible. They want different things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're being better
So
than
I
I
think
am.
trying to explain how hard it was for Ed to let go was it was pretty cheesy. Yeah.
You know what it was? I think there's so many other things about this that did feel like they were trying to do something serious while being authentic. And this particular part for me, I felt like could have been like we could have rolled that back just a little bit because it made me not like Allie as a character later on. I was just like I had felt so crushed for her in the shower scene where she tells like first off, I do not believe, I'm going to go on record. I do not believe that Allie would have waited till she got in a shower or waited 30 seconds before she picked up a phone to call or text either Shawn, her boyfriend, or Hannah, her friend. This person that we are seeing, the second she got off the phone with that agent, would have called or texted both these people. So I understand this is like, there's no way, there's absolutely no way she wouldn't have immediately communicated to both of them. Oh my God, right? Because this is a huge deal. And it's Allie. So, for the sake of the story, they need to have her confess it in the shower to Shawn in this extra. This is Shawn, Allie's boyfriend, in this extra intimate space, and have him say, like, "What about Vermont?" And I like how they do show Shawn as like a likable character. He's not like a dick. I mean, he's a nice enough looking guy, like
Hmm.
really cares about her. I felt he was very real to me. But like sometimes what they did with Allie was so performative that I was just like, I don't care about this person. I just or is that me just being bitter? What do you think?
No, I think that Allie was portrayed the way there's a certain flavor of character that's into theater, into performance that can be portrayed kind of over the top, similar to I don't know if you ever watched that show, Georgia and Ginny, I think it's called.
For a minute,
And
yeah.
Ginny has a
Mhm.
friend. Yeah, Ginny has a friend that's, into theater and very self-involved and over the top in like just life. But, I don't know how true that is to some teenagers. And these people were later teenagers, maybe like 19, but, you know,
Yeah.
ultimately, though, I agree with you. I like that Shawn was shown as a nice guy because the same thing is still true. He's a nice guy, and you should break up with him
And you should
because
absolutely
your
break this.
relationship your relationship has run its course and it's not serving either of you, even if you want to believe it is.
Yeah, because don't give up on love, right? And for that,
Yeah.
I will give it props. But to sorry I went off on that whole Alley side train. I was just like, I guess the advantage of the scene of her rolling around the stage, singing horribly, made me enjoy Hannah's performance of Cherry Pie a bit more. So it's like more of a pop out surprise. So I like that. And as you say, the really interesting thing about all this is you see them supporting each other because because Hannah's going to support Allie, so and she doesn't drink in public, and she's got to be there for the Allie. Garrett. I keep calling him Graham. I think Graham is a better name for him than Garrett. But anyway,
That's his last name, Garrett
I know.
Graham.
Yeah, I know. So I keep calling him Graham because I just feel like he's more of a Graham than a Garrett. But anyway, I don't know why. I just do. So he takes responsibility for Hannah with his life and also responsibility for Allie. She finds her drink of choice, has 4 drinks, gets wasted karaoke, um, but does this incredible performance. And in fact, speaking of the public and private, I want to go back to you said this is more of like the real Hannah. In fact, her performance of Cherry Pie is absolutely the same level of performance as The Bitch Is Back, the Elton John song, which we saw in an earlier episode where she gets Garrett out of his funk because she's so authentic and real. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's her performing in private for no one, just herself.
Yeah. I do mean, and
So now we see a performance that's in public for public. And keep in mind that all of this is in the context of a performance for Justin, who, if I remember correctly, is not there in that bar scene, in that karaoke scene. Is that, am I right about that?
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not sure the exact point in the story, but I think at this point, Hannah's catching some feelings for Garrett, even if she still thinks that like the target is Justin.
Do we as an
Also,
audience?
I think she's just teasing him.
Yeah, yeah, she absolutely is. Do we as an audience ever for a second believe in the viability of Justin Cole?
No.
No, no. I thought that was an interesting choice too. Like every
Yeah.
time we see him interact with her, he is awful. Not mean, just ugh, like
Well, I
ick.
have comments on that. I have thoughts on that.
Please
Um,
do.
I think one of the themes of the show is that we as people are attracted to other people that we would perhaps want to be like. So
Hmm.
Hannah sees Justin as someone who can perform, who can write lyrics, who can express themselves creatively in public for all to see. And he's been doing it since high school. His high school songs are on Spotify.
Mhm.
She's stalking him that way. Um, Also, he's hot. Um, but Garrett, people online, some of them are, we don't get why Garrett likes Hannah because she's kind of like this awkward, a little bit nerdy girl, and he has all these hot puck bunnies throwing themselves at him. But when he sees her in the hockey stadium, lip syncing to that song and really being herself and enjoying herself without control, without worrying about perfection or what it looks like, and just being silly and joyful. I mean, he is really touched by that because he's not experiencing that in his own life. Ever since he's a child, he's been told to be better than good, to be perfect. Everything is about intention and perfect outcome. So he's seeing someone just being playful, and I think he's really attracted to that.
Absolutely. And thank you for I'd like your take on Justin Cole and like why she's into him. Because I was just like, who could speak to this boy even once? I mean, I don't know about you, but like when we were teenage girls or young adult college girls, you could see someone who's super good looking, maybe was doing something socially impressive. And if you talk to that person one time, or at least if I talk to that, maybe I'm just maybe it's because I have like fucked up mom issues and I had a really good dad, as you know. Like I was just always repulsed by these people. Like if I saw somebody who's like, can you please hurry with my order? Because I have to go, who's like trying to talk to you about the watermelon, right? There's a way to be like, I'm not sure what you're saying about watermelons, but unfortunately, I gotta get, right? Like, there's a way to, and I just was like, every time we see him, he has like no personality. He is like, and he's not a dick. It's just like there's nothing there.
He is pretentious. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one thing both you and I can recall times where we met some guy or group of guys when we were young in college, things to like impress us.
Yes.
Um, Whether and giggling, like
Yeah.
yuck.
Like, ugh, gross. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's interesting that, like, as far as the audience is concerned, you kind of know from minute one, the way it's shot, the way he talks, that we're
Yeah.
not supposed to root for Justin for a effing second. And I guess that's sort of efficient, right? Because there's not going to be any triangle here. It's funny. I've watched young men do reactions to this show and young men who are kind of like hockey bro jock guys, like, which is really cute, really cute. And they're just like, ew, Justin, yuck. Ugh. Like it's just kind of funny that that we're given that. And I think like ultimately these themes of private reality versus public performance. And as you say, public performance being perfection or desirable, successful, like this outside result that other people will agree. And keep in mind, like every single moment, because it's 2026, we are of course seeing Snapchats and Instagrams and like, you know, how am I performing this relationship? Right? So that Justin, who's allegedly the intended audience, but really isn't, right? The audience really becomes this bigger group of friends who like gets to know Hannah while she's in this fake
Mhm.
relationship. We never see any proof, by the way, that the faking of their relationship has much effect on Justin, other than he's like maybe likes her a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know. And then this private, playful self and the way they support each other to do that. Is there anything else you want to
Yeah.
say about their relationship? Because what I'm thinking is, let's finish this up for today, because we're kind of at a natural stopping point. Like for episode 4, we've kind of talked a lot about the first half. And then
Mhm.
perhaps we can come back and talk about the second story.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
unusually this romance ends, the romantic arc ends at the very first 2 minutes of episode 5, and then we move on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Um, I think I just want to say about, wait, when you say this relationship, do you mean Hannah and
um
Justin or Hannah and
Sorry,
Garrett?
Hannah and Garrett, like in what we're seeing as far as, I mean, I know we can talk about this a lot more, and we can, but like what are we seeing here as far as the way they uplift each other or don't. I mean, does this trope, because you were the one who pointed out, does the trope of the deal actually come take on a whole new level in this show? I mean, the trope of the fake relationship that turns real.
Well, yeah, I would say that the trope kind of allows for a container to speed up a gradual friendship, a gradual trust, and a gradual ability to be vulnerable without judgment that we don't see or we don't feel we have time for in real life, you know?
Mhm.
And this slow burn of getting to know someone without worrying about what the end game is. The trope really bypasses that.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right.
yeah, so I think building up to their relationship, there's a lot of them exposing their vulnerability to each other as a friend, someone who's in that secret deal bubble, and the other person is accepting and not judging and encouraging in a lot of ways. They both encourage each other in,
Hmm.
she tutors Garrett. Um, we never find out why he's failing this class. But with her simple tutoring, he gets a B+ on an oral presentation. So was he really just like judging himself for not being perfect? Who
True.
knows?
True. That's such
Yeah.
a good point. And then, I mean, fucking props to Kierkegaard and this idea of two different truths. Like,
Hmm.
I'm going to
Yeah.
say, just as a like narrative appreciator, that was a nice little moment and did make me think of you stomping around your college dorm room screaming, "Where's my Kant?" Speaking of
Yes.
Immanuel Kant, the philosopher. So
Mm.
just props to you. I just want you to know that will be with me for till the day they put me in the box. I will always
You know,
think of
I had misplaced my book. And I sincerely wanted to know, where is my Kant?
where
I
was your
can't find
Kant?
my Kant.
You couldn't find your Kant. No one knew where your Kant was. It was a legit question. Um, and I
Yeah,
think you were wearing quite heavy boots or shoes at the time as well
right.
as you.
Yeah.
And the room, to be clear, was not. I mean, those tiny rooms, two women, girls living in it. I mean, your Kant could have been a lot of places, Val. That's what I'm trying to say.
My Kant has been a lot of places.
Your Kant has been a lot of places. Do you still have your Kant,
No,
by the way?
it was a used book. So I put it back in rotation.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh God.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I think later on I found my Kant underneath a newt.
I remember that. I remember there was a nude on your Kant. Okay. I'm going to cut us off right here.
Okay.